If you don't understand a joke or humorous content in another language, it can make you feel like a bit of an outsider. Engaging in humor, either by attempting to be funny or by reacting to someone else's humor, can cause anxiety or stress if you're unfamiliar or uncomfortable with it. This is true even if you speak the same language, since humor differs from culture to culture. For example, I'm Canadian and I went to England for the first time to meet my relatives when I was 12 years old. At the end of a short stay, my younger cousin, who I had only met a few days earlier, said to me, "Okay, we've had enough of you now. You can go home." She ended with a warm smile, so I immediately identified that it was a joke and that she actually meant the opposite, that she was enjoying my visit. For a very short moment though, I remembered feeling uncomfortable with what my cousin said and didn't know how to respond. I remember that I actually laughed, and that was appropriate, but looking back, it would have been even better for the purpose of bonding with my cousin if I had responded back with my own sarcasm. What is sarcasm? Sarcasm is when people say something very different or even opposite to what they actually mean, but not for the purpose of fooling or deceiving someone. Often the goal is to mock or make fun of someone or something, either lightly, just to tease, or strongly too, to be cruel. Another word for sarcasm is irony, but not situational irony or dramatic irony. Those terms are used in literature. When people say that sarcasm and irony are the same thing, they're referring to verbal irony. But actually, while verbal irony is neutral, sarcasm is negative. I'll use just the term sarcasm from now on. Why should you learn about English language sarcasm? Well, sarcasm and similar humor make up about 8% or more of the English language. This is enough to make it important for you to learn. But if you don't come from a culture that uses this type of humor, you might misinterpret something if it's being said sarcastically. You might get hurt feelings or even get angry. This makes learning about sarcasm in English even more important. Sarcasm is used to criticize, to assert or reinforce power, and sometimes just to insult or be mean. However, in many cases, it has very positive functions. It can be used to entertain or amuse people, to bond with people or create good relationships, and to flirt. Okay, stop, MORKSENSEI. These useful functions of sarcasm are yet another good reason to learn about it. Sarcasm can be a very dark and witty or clever type of humor. It can indeed be very biting, so unless you're very confident in your English skills and your ability to be sarcastic, I would be careful. In fact, I might suggest that you don't try to produce sarcasm unless you understand it extremely well. However, you can definitely learn to detect it or identify it, understand it, and to respond to it. And hopefully you can also learn to appreciate or enjoy it. And that's what I hope to help you with in today's video. Hello lovely language learners, it's MORKSENSEI. On this channel I offer tips and strategies for improving your English language skills. So if that's something that you need and want, please subscribe. Okay, so now you know why you should learn about English language sarcasm. This type of humor is used a lot in the English language. Understanding sarcasm can help you avoid feeling uncomfortable, isolated, or even unnecessarily hurt or offended. Instead, With an understanding of sarcasm, you'll be better able to enjoy English and connect with its speakers. It's been said that if you understand the humor of another language and find it funny, then you've already likely reached a high level of proficiency or ability in that language. I think that this is true, and particularly true if your mother tongue and culture are very different from English. I know many Japanese who have reached a high level of English proficiency, but still miss the nuances of sarcasm. For some English language learners, sarcasm in English can be extremely difficult to understand, but not impossible. I've explained what sarcasm is and why it's important to learn, and briefly mentioned a few of its functions. I could talk more about those functions, but I want to focus more on giving you practical information. So I'm going to divide the rest of this video into two parts. First, I'll share some features of sarcasm so that you can identify it when you hear it. And second, I'll give you some advice on how to respond to it. Since today's video is a little long, you can find timestamps in everything below in the description box. Sarcastic comments are often difficult to identify in written English because there are no verbal or visual cues or hints. Context is therefore very important to determine whether or not something is sarcastic. Sometimes writers will end their sarcastic comments with a wink emoji to show that they're joking, or in contrast, they might end with a simple smiley icon to show that they're being literal and not sarcastic. In spoken English, however, which I'm guessing might be what you're more interested in, it's a bit easier to identify sarcasm. It can be identified by the way a comment is said, such as tone of voice, by visual cues, such as facial expressions and gestures, by hyperbole or exaggeration, or by context, the situation and relationship between people. So let me talk first about tone of voice. When someone's being sarcastic, you might notice one or more of the following. 1, a pitch that is lower than the speaker's normal pitch. Pitch just means the level of highness or lowness in your voice. 2, extra stress or emphasis on certain words or parts of words, especially vowels. 3, longer time taken than normal to say something, a result of number 1 and 2. Number 4, slightly reduced volume. Muttering is common in sarcastic comments, and muttering just means talking in a low voice that is difficult to hear. Number 5, sighing before or while saying something. Okay, so I've prepared some sentences to read to you, and I will say each sentence twice. The first time is normal or literal, meaning I will say what I mean. The second time will be sarcastic, meaning my feelings are opposite to what I am saying. Can you identify the difference in my tone of voice? I'm not going to show you my face to make this harder for you. Here we go. That was the most exciting lecture I've heard in a while. That was the most exciting lecture I've heard in a while. Oh yeah, he's definitely going to win. Oh yeah, he's definitely going to win. Chewy. That's just how I like it. Chewy. That's just how I like it. Thanks a lot for your help. Thanks a lot for your help. Wow. I love what you've done with the place. It looks great. Wow. I love what you've done with the place. It looks great. Did you catch the difference? Play it again if you need to. Regarding tone of voice, there is an important point I should make. When people talk with family and friends and they want to be sarcastic, they may not necessarily use a sarcastic tone of voice. This is because friends and family know each other so well that they don't require additional vocal cues or hints to understand when someone is being sarcastic. I have a friend like this, and I admit sometimes I find it hard to decide if he's being sarcastic or not. In such cases, the person who is being sarcastic is often referred to as being dry. Remember that context is important. Even when friends and family talk on the telephone or smartphone, they will have to alter their tone of voice if they want to be sarcastic, because the people cannot see each other. There are no visual cues. And speaking of visual cues, the next way you can identify sarcasm is through body language. In addition to tone of voice, sarcasm can be shown through gestures and facial expressions. For example, people who are being sarcastic might roll their eyes, shrug their shoulders, or raise their eyebrows. They might grimace or frown while saying something that would otherwise be viewed positively, or they might smile while saying something that would otherwise be viewed negatively. If they want to challenge somebody to believe what they are saying, they might purse their lips, making a pouting expression, and directly gaze at you like this. Basically, their gestures and facial expressions do not match with what they are saying. This body language is usually added to changes in tone of voice, making it easier to identify. Here are the phrases I said before, this time with my own visual cues added. Again, the first time I say something, it's literal, meaning I mean what I say, and the second time I'm being ironic. I mean the opposite of what I'm saying. I've also added my intended meaning after each phrase in written form. That was the most exciting lecture I've heard in a while. That was the most exciting lecture I've heard in a while. Oh yeah, he's definitely gonna win. Oh yeah, he's definitely gonna win. Chewy. That's just how I like it. Chewy. That's just how I like it. Thanks a lot for your help. Thanks a lot for your help. Wow. I love what you've done with the place. It looks great. Wow. I love what you've done with the place. It looks great. There's an important point I should make about visual cues that are provided with body language. Sometimes people show sarcasm by removing all gestures and body language, as well as changes to tone of voice. A person might say something that is usually said full of emotion in a very deadpan way. Deadpan basically means neutral, lacking exaggeration or emotion. You can identify this as sarcasm because the neutral tone of voice and the lack of body language don't match the content of what's being said. Here are some examples. I'm so overcome with emotion right now. Your sad story is torturing my soul so much that I don't know how I will be able to make it through the day without killing myself. I'm so excited that I think I'll jump up and down with unbridled joy for the next 6 hours straight. I hope you understood from those 3 statements that I really didn't feel the way I said I was feeling. In addition to illustrating how a deadpan delivery can show sarcasm, I hope you also noted that the actual words I was saying were also hyperbolic. Hyperbolic, or hyperbole in noun form, means exaggerated beyond reasonableness. So for example, I said, "Your sad story is torturing my soul so much that I don't know how I will be able to make it through the day without killing myself." Well, to be honest, even if your story really did make me sad, I would unlikely kill myself. I also said, "I'm so excited that I think I'll jump up and down with unbridled joy for the next 6 hours straight." To be honest, even if it were true that I was really excited, I probably wouldn't jump up and down for joy for the next 6 hours. These are exaggerations that I use to emphasize that I was not being literal, that I didn't really mean what I was saying. Sometimes hyperbole is necessary to make sarcasm clear. For example, if you recently read a terrible book that you thought was a big waste of time, you could say, sarcastically, "Yeah, I liked it." But probably it isn't enough in this case. People might actually think you liked it. Instead, you can say something like, "Oh yeah, I absolutely adored it. I think it's the best book that I've ever read in my life. It's definitely going to win the Pulitzer Prize." The sarcasm is now much clearer, I hope. Okay, so I've finished explaining some main features of sarcasm. I hope you're now better able to identify it when you hear it. However, in the description box below, I've put a link to the written form of this video in my blog post, where you'll also find some resources to help you practice identifying sarcasm in English. I highly recommend them, so if you want to or if you need to practice identifying sarcasm, please check it out. Now then, let's move on to how to respond to sarcasm. I'll outline a few scenarios for you that might help you deal with this type of discourse or communication. Now, you might not have had to deal with sarcasm in English before, but since sarcasm is common in the English language, you'll eventually be confronted with it as you get better at English. So it's a good idea to know how to respond. So let me share a few scenarios to demonstrate how. You're not 100% sure, but you suspect that someone you don't know or don't have a relationship with is being sarcastic. If you feel that this person is probably just trying to hurt your feelings or impress someone, I would simply just ignore him or her. If the speaker is someone you know, then just ask. It's okay to remind them that you're not a native speaker and you have trouble identifying sarcasm. You might end up having a conversation about sarcasm and learning more. A speaker is directing a sarcastic comment back at him or herself. Maybe this person is expressing frustration with his or her actions or characteristics. Perhaps the speaker is feeling insecure, so prefers to quickly judge or blame his or herself before someone else does. An example? "Yeah, right. I'm sure the boss will pick me to go on the trip. I'm obviously the smartest employee here." Obviously, the person who says this feels the opposite. So a good way to respond is with kindness and support. You could say something like, "Don't be so hard on yourself. You provide value here too, you know." At the very least, you can be reassuring by smiling at the person and not negatively judging him or her. If a speaker uses sarcasm to show frustration with a situation, which is not your fault, then it's possible that this person simply wants to connect with you over something she or he feels you'll feel the same about. You can show your agreement with the speaker by smiling, nodding, and/or making a rejoinder, such as, "I know what you mean," or "Yeah, no kidding," or "You're telling me," or "Right?" etc. However, if it's possible that you are the cause of the situation, the speaker's sarcasm might be an indirect way of expressing frustration with you. If that's the case, wait for it. If the sarcasm is directed at you, first you have to decide whether to interpret it as friendly or lighthearted, or hostile or negative. If you're sure the sarcasm is lighthearted, don't take it personally, even if you don't appreciate the humor. I would give a friendly smile. If you're not able to smile genuinely, then I'd suggest that you fake a smile. This will show that you realize the speaker's intention was not hostile, but at the same time, you didn't really appreciate the comment. Now, what if the speaker is really being mean to you through sarcasm? How should you respond? Well, actually, in this case as well, I would try not to quickly take offense or take it personally. If you get upset, it might make the situation worse. Instead, think about why the speaker might be upset with you. If you know why, then apologize. If you still cannot understand what you did to make them hostile, then just be honest and ask. For example, you could say, "Sorry, it's clear that you're upset with me, but honestly, I can't figure out what I did to make you feel this way." If you say something like that, you would not only be communicating clearly and honestly, but you would also be helping to diffuse or de-stress the situation. The speaker may even end up apologizing. Okay, hopefully these scenarios are enough to show you how you can respond to sarcasm well. Now, there are other types of humor that are related to sarcasm, and these are satire and parody. Let me know if you want me to talk about those another time. There are also literary devices or tools related to sarcasm, such as oxymorons and paradoxes. But that's it for today, my lovelies. As usual, I'll put a link to the written format of this video on my blog post below, so don't forget to check that out. I'll also link to some other resources I used to create this video. I hope you enjoyed the content and you now understand a bit more about sarcasm in English. Please hit the like button if it's true that you liked it, and any comments you might have below, and I look forward to chatting to you again in my next video. MORKSENSEI, signing out. Mwah.